Welcome back to the West Coast Davengers. I'm your host, Dave. Today I'm bringing you the main panel from the 2025 Eddie P convention, the Comic-Con to honor the memory of Ed Piskor and to showcase some great talent and independent creators. We'll get to it in just a moment, but I just want to ask you to be aware that I did not have any professional audio equipment with this, so I did the best that I could. And I was holding the camera the whole time, and I was extremely tough to do for 45 minutes or so. But I did the best I could. It's Jim Rugg, Jim Mahfood, Michel Fiffe, Tom Scioli, hosted by Ed's sister, Justine. And here is the main panel from the Eddie P Con 2025.
Check. Yeah. My name is Jim Mahfood. I'm a freelance illustrator, comic maker, superhero parody, Kickstarter, YouTube, sensation. Thank you, Jim Rugg.
I am also an illustrator, comic book artist, creator of Sweet Angel Aphrodisiac, Alien Disclosure, and a bunch of other self-published comics that you can find at my tables right now.
I'm Tom Scioli. I write, draw, color, and letter comic books. My most recent being Space Opera Xanadex Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy for Image Comics. And I also have a YouTube show called The Total Recall Show.
I'm Michel Fiffe. Could you hear me? Okay, Michel Fiffe. I do a comic called Cobra, which just wrapped up after 13 years. Thank you. Thanks. And so now that it's over, I thought I'd celebrate it by coming to this show. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Thanks for
being here. I'm going to be a little sappy for a minute. Last year we did a full panel about Eddie, and obviously this weekend is always gonna honor him. But moving forward, we want to talk about comics and the art. So I really want to thank you guys, because I didn't even know who you were a year and a half ago, except for like YouTube. But you guys are like my family now. I'm gonna try not to cry, but I really thank you for being here. This means the world to our family. Having you guys like travel here and seeing you guys all the time. Really, I love you guys, so thank you. Now that the sappiness is out of the way. My first real question is basically open-ended for anybody, but all of you guys have such different styles. Who do you think you would say is like your biggest inspiration?
Jack Kirby would be for me. So, yeah.
Just the mix mash of whoever I'm looking at the time, but Bill Sienkiewicz, I would shout out, is like the most prevalent, mixed with Jamie Hewlett, the original Tank Girl artist.
I'd probably say Frank Miller and Dan Clowes.
It might get dangerous, but if you asked us to name each other's influences, that might get kind of ugly.
I prefer that.
Yeah, go for it. Do it.
It took me a moment just because it's so many names.
Yeah.
It's kind of what Jim Mahfood said. It's like everybody, just at any given time. I'd say Steve Ditko and the Hernandez brothers.
Okay.
Who did Spider-Man and Love and Rockets, respectively. Like, those are the main ones for me.
Sweet. So, do you guys have like a dedicated sketchbook for each thing that you're working on, or do you just kind of like draw and see what happens? Because like I was looking through some of Eddie's, and it was one from 2009, and he had like Wolverine, Iron Man, Spider-Man. Then there's like random Switchblade Shorty characters, and then it's like Iron Man, Switchblade, or you're making me stop, you know. But then he had like a whole outline for a hip hop family tree. So like, do you guys have just like crazy sketchbooks like that, or do you usually use one to work on what your project is at the time?
I'm terrible at sketchbooks. I don't have any sketchbooks. Ever since high school, I can't finish a sketchbook, so I kind of just stopped trying. So really, it's just a bunch of notes, like in scattered pieces of paper and sketches, and it's really a disaster. It's not collected at all.
Can you read it? Like,
Yeah, that's
it's,
the thing.
it's
It
readable.
makes sense to me.
Okay.
That's my comfort zone. I kind of like that. But I don't have it all in one book. I kind of wish it was all collected that way. It's just more convenient and cooler to look through and look for stuff that I'm looking for, and find stuff that I'm looking for. But I know I don't have sketchbooks.
Yeah, some people live in their sketchbooks, and then some people, their sketchbooks get published, and it's kind of shocking because when you see how meticulous they are. But no, I'm probably similar to Ed. Like it's chaotic. It's the sketchbook is just jotting down, whatever it is that I'm working on at the moment, whatever's on my mind. But I don't have discreetly set up ones. Also, my sketchbooks also kind of double as like journals or diaries, so I could be like writing about like a dream I had or like what happened 2 days ago or something, and then have some Godzilla sequences, actual work stuff. So it's a mix and match.
Yeah, I'm not very active in sketchbooks in a drawing sense, but I do keep like an active notebook running. It's kind of like a sketchbook. I date them on the covers. They're relatively small, so they're easy and portable for me. But if you look through them, they're almost like a business journal. I'm not writing my thoughts, but I'm noting like meetings, who's in the meeting, when it is, and what we're going over, which are often practically every time it's job related. And then I'll have, if I'm doing covers or illustration, I will often do very small sketches in those to work out composition. But it's not like again, the people who live in these sketchbooks where that's its own art form, I'm not one of those people. Like there are a lot more words written in my sketchbooks than there are drawings, for good, for bad,
Yeah, I've always kept a sketchbook just for drawing and practicing stuff for myself. And then with writing my books or designing covers, I basically keep like the cheapest, dime store spiral notebook that I will just write in ballpoint pen, like, junior high style of like story ideas, concepts. And that's kind of like, no one sees that one. But the sketchbook, I eventually do scan all those drawings at the end of the year and print a book. I'm doing a series right now called The Ballpoint Slayer, and I basically monetize those sketches where they're just for me when I'm drawing them in the morning, but then it's like, well, this is just what I want to draw, whatever I want to draw, and then I'll just turn that into an art book, and people can choose to buy that or not. It's fun. Yeah, I do like, especially since I moved just 2 years ago, I have this thing of like, I have a coffee shop I can walk to now, and usually 3 mornings a week, I will go there, regardless of deadlines or crazy stress or projects that are due. I will just make a point of doing an hour or two of drawing for myself, whatever I want to do, without worrying about anything that is due, because I just need, like, I'm a graphomaniac. I have to make marks on paper every day, no matter what. So that allows me to do that. And it's something about waking up in the morning and it's just caffeine and me and like not thinking about anything, but just being like, I'm just gonna draw like a creature and a hot girl and a boombox, and then I'll worry about working on that cover that's due later this afternoon. But this 2 hours early in the morning at the coffee shop, barely no one's there. I love that. It's great. It's cool as an artist, like you can take on new practices. This is a fairly new thing for me. The specific 3 to 4 days, Jimmy, a week at the coffee shop. By the way, if you're in Kansas City, don't ever go to that coffee shop and annoy me. I'm joking. I've been spotted there a couple times, and I'm just like, oh, shit. I really want to talk right now. I'm not a morning person, so there's been some people that have spotted me.
I have one off-topic question for you, Jim Mahfood. Have you seen Taylor Swift?
In Kansas City, I haven't, but I have a friend who owns a very famous steakhouse downtown KC, and her guy have, gone in through the side building. They closed down the restaurant.
If you see her.
I'll let you know.
Moving on. It's been a ploy to learn about Taylor Swift.
We're gonna work on our Taylor Swift comic book, you guys.
Okay. Just kidding. Tom, you said about having a dream. That's actually one of my questions. Has anybody ever had to wake up from a dream and immediately draw something? Like, did it make you, like, make it into a comic, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that. I've had sequences from dreams and, yeah, writing them down and then having them make it into a comic. And it could happen in the morning or it could happen, you know, late at night. It's funny you bring it up because there was something in my dream last night that I wanted to write down and I didn't. And it was some, like, word play. It was like Diver something. It was like Diver Dan or something. But
Your next character, Diver
yeah, exactly.
Dan.
But like, it wasn't Dan. It was something where Diver plus the other thing made some like longer pun that I don't know if it actually works in real life, but it worked in my dream. But I need to think about that.
It would work in a comic. I think so. Yeah, make it work, man. Anyone else? Yeah, let him get that.
No, I don't. Write dreams.
No.
Yeah, I'm not. I usually don't remember any of my dreams, but I do think it's possible to kind of program yourself to solve problems whenever you're sleeping. So, like, if I'm working on a really tight deadline, you kind of just load in all the information before you go to sleep, and then you wake up with some solutions. At least that's been my experience, especially as, again, deadlines are crushing. Right before a book goes to print, it's sort of like a 24-hour, you need to do everything you possibly can, because once it goes to print, it's sort of like you're out. And I find, like, that's kind of the crunch time, and it's already like a 24-hour, you know, process for those last few days. And I do get a lot of ideas. Like, I'll wake up kind of like, oh, this thing I was struggling with yesterday, I'm now ready to go with it. So, I don't know, it's kind of a work thing, but not dream specific.
Yeah, I haven't done dream-related comics or anything, but I feel like my work itself is sort of dreamy, psychedelic strangeness anyway, but, you know, if that's an answer.
There we go.
Justine, there is a cartoonist, Rick Veitch, who has done extensive dream comics.
Really?
You know, like, the idea is the more you do, the more of your dream you'll remember, possibly the more lucid it becomes, all these different things. But he has hundreds of pages of his dreams, and he'd have other cartoonists also make dream comics. So if you're into dream
I'm into it.
and images, Rick Veitch is the way to go.
The villain in American Barbarian, Tutankhamun, that was a dream. I dreamt that and then wrote. So just for a solid example, something like that.
So do you guys normally start with a character and, like, build around that, or do you start with, like, a setting and then add characters into it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I did most recently, the Space Opera Xanadex, did begin with a character. It was, you know, I had this just image of this character. And speaking of American Barbarian was the same thing too. It, like, the character sort of came first and then everything else. I'd have to really think about whether that applies to other stuff, but definitely in those two.
Well, it's funny because my latest project, Copra, I started it issue by issue, and so I sort of had an idea of the characters and stories and stuff. But it took me, I would figure it out issue by like page by page almost. So I didn't have a map or a sort of Bible for, you know, character design or, you know, characteristics and stuff like that. Nothing was fleshed out. I would flesh it out as I told the story. So it was like, that's the long way to go. And for me, it's the most organic way to do that. So
It does seem comics lends itself to being character driven or character first. And I know, like, the writer for Lone Wolf and Cub said exactly that. But it looks like the character's everything, character first.
I work in a lot of different ways and mediums and stuff, and so, like, sometimes, like, I did a Kickstarter about 5 years ago called Octobriana, and it was a blacklight comic, and I had figured out, like, the blacklight printing process and a way to do it, like, using the comic book for color printing process, And then it was like a year of trying to figure out what is the subject matter, character, idea that makes sense for this. Like, it was completely production first, worked out all the technical stuff, and then just wandered around like, I need to make something like this. I'm desperate to make something like this. What is worth it? Because, it's very specific, like Blacklight. My latest comic book is Alien Disclosure, and it's a ballpoint pen. It's all drawn with ballpoint pens on oak tag paper. It's kind of like the filing, like the file paper, that yellowy, heavy stock. I ended up with a ream of that. Ballpoint pens are something I draw with a lot. I tried ballpoint pen on it and was like, wow, this paper works really well with ballpoint pen. A lot of paper doesn't. And after doing a couple of drawings, it's sort of stuff that was swirling around in my head. I was like, what can I draw that, take advantage of this? And I had been doing research on UFOs for a story I did for Heavy Metal Magazine, and that just kind of poured out onto that paper. But again, it was material first, and then sort of what can I do with this material I like?
Yeah, for me, always character first, and what setting, adventure do I want that character to go through. With my creator-owned work, like Girl Scouts or something, it's like I feel like the characters are friends of mine, and I want to see what adventure, what crazy shit these friends of mine are going to get into. And I'm working on a new book called The Arachnid Enforcer. It's like a superhero parody thing, and I write things out, I plan things out, but there's times where you don't really know what the characters are going to do until you're drawing them on the page. Even with the layouts and stuff, I have to actually start drawing the pages and inking them and seeing are these characters even going to work in a comic? And I was like, oh shit, they are working. This is working great. I love these characters to the point where I might even alter a story occasionally. One of the characters wound up becoming very popular online with people seeing images of him, and I had this original plan to kill him off in the story, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to kill him off now. He's too good. People are reacting, so I was able to figure out a good way to circle around that, but I would love to try a thing where it isn't character first, it's story first or setting first at some point. We'll see.
Do you prefer, this is for anyone, do you guys prefer making a whole graphic novel or just a zine? No? No? You want to do a whole chapter?
Yeah, I prefer shorter work. You have a million ideas. These things take a long time. I love the comic book format. I do make zines. I love those too. But I love that format, and I feel like the majority of the comic books that I read and love over my life have been comic book sized, and so the more you work in a particular format, whether it's 4-panel comic strip or 20-page comic book or whatever, you start to almost think that way. And so I like that unit size. I feel like you can do a complete satisfying story in almost any genre, and really scale, epic. None of that stuff is based on page count, and that's just the size I like. It's something I can churn out in a few months and then have the finished piece relatively quickly. Graphic novels can take years, so you better believe in that idea and be able to bring the excitement and want to get to the drawing table. And that can be hard to sustain, especially I like silly and dumb, and that gets old if you stay with it too long.
I create graphic novels under protest. I would far prefer just to do comics, and I've done some projects like the Jack Kirby Star Warriors I did, where I'm trying to reclaim the comic book, that the comic book itself can be an end unto itself. It doesn't have to be the means to some other end. That the comic book is just this wonderful art form that thing that has been sort of diminished and people pejoratively refer to it as a pamphlet. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and I think the market's kind of shown that too, where people are spending a lot of money on just comic books, on the aftermarket and stuff. So I think people do appreciate the value of it. But yeah, I enjoy. I think it's the perfect length to make something really cool. And with graphic novels, there's just tremendous financial incentive for making a graphic novel, but the efforts of the creators or creator, it can't help but get watered down a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does take forever. So you don't know if it's landing, if it does well, you don't know if it's clicking with people. So it's kind of tough to find out 2 years after the fact if it's a success or not. You know, if you dedicated 5 years of your life to cultivating this thing. And I personally like serialization. I like chapters, which later you could collect into a book. But that's artistically speaking, but practically speaking, you want to be on the shelves as much as possible. And by doing it by issue, you get to achieve that. And then again, when it's collected. Whereas like if you go away for 5 years to work on this one thing, you'll be forgotten by like your own audience, by editors, by publishers. You run the risk of that. I'm not saying that happens. That's a possibility, especially in today's world. So I personally like little issue-sized chunks of comics to work on and to read. That's the way I like to consume the work, you know.
That idea of it taking a long time and being forgotten by the public is literally something that Ed and I talked about whenever we started Cartoonist Kayfabe. Like, part of the purpose of making Cartoonist Kayfabe was a way to allow us to make whatever length work and not have to worry about, oh, it's been, you know, a year or 2 years since anybody's heard from you. So that's a very real practical concern.
For me, shorter right now is the way to go with like the Kickstarter thing I'm doing, 48-page one-shots. You get one a year. You're in and out. There's no backstory. You don't have to, your reader, your new fan or consumer doesn't have to rely on like, you know, years of continuity or lore. It's just, this is just this crazy book I made. It's a one-off. Check it out, you know. And also doing conventions for like 28 years and having to lug all this shit around the country. It's the thinner books are like, you can ship more to the hotel in advance than like a trade or a hardcover art book, even though I still have that stuff too. The idea of getting more out there in a way is like an appealing idea as well.
So you guys always end up doing like different covers for different artists. Do you guys have a favorite one that you have done?
Just this year, I was able to do a cover for Heavy Metal magazine, which was kind of like a checklist ultimate art fanboy moment for me. Of like, I made the cover of Heavy Metal magazine. Okay,
that's I need to see that.
I have a print of it here. I'll give you one at the table. Yeah, let me know. I'll give you a print of it. But that was a cool, like, shit, I made Heavy Metal. Okay, that's a nice one.
I love making covers, and so like I made one for Jim, and that's really exciting to make one for both somebody I'm friends with, but also like I love the book that it was for. It was for his last Kickstarter, so that was a thrill, and I was happy with how the cover came out, which isn't always the case. So that was really exciting. I made one for Tom for his Godzilla book that I was really excited about because, oh man, this was one of the first things that I did when I started working again last year. And I found a neighbor had a letterpress in his garage, like a letterpress studio. So as soon as I found out about that, it was like, what am I working on? Again, process, right? What am I working on? How do I make how do I do something with this letterpress studio that I've suddenly like kind of run into? And I did a letterpress Godzilla cover. So I don't know of another letterpress cover. That's really exciting to me. And I've just finished up, I've been doing a series of covers for an image book called Blood Squad 7 that I almost didn't take the job and ended up doing a cover for every single issue. And it's like, I consider it like a body of work. It's looking at early 90s comics like through my eyes now. And it's turned out to be one of my favorite things I've ever made. So I like making covers, and I try to make stuff that I haven't done before and maybe nobody's done before, and it's very exciting to me. So I have quite a few that are favorites, but I like doing them for people that I know and books that I, creators. So I actually have another one. The next cover that I do is another cover for a Tom comic. So it's awesome whenever the stars align, us being the stars, the superstars align.
You're doing another cover for something of mine. I haven't heard about it yet. I'll have to look into that. Okay. Yeah,
You heard it here first.
Yeah, that's news to me too. I create covers under protest. I really don't enjoy it, and I mean, I think Jeff Smith on an episode of Cartoonist Kayfabe pointed out that the cover is commerce, the interior is art, and I'm much more interested in the interior. Now Jim does, and Jim also, they elevate the art form of making the cover into an art form, into a true art form. It's just, for me personally, in my practice, it's just not, I make my own covers begrudgingly. I'd so much rather farm it out. And again, both Jims made, some of the best covers for that Godzilla series that I worked on. But to answer your question, the one that jumps out to me, I did a variant cover for, it might not have been a variant cover, it might have been just like the regular cover for a Deadpool series, and it was written by Brian Posehn, I think, but on the cover I got to have Deadpool murder all of my favorite Marvel characters. So he's killing Devil Dinosaur, Moon Boy, the Watcher, the Celestials, and so something about that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one.
The last variant I did was, I forget when it came out, a few months ago, probably earlier in the year. It was Skeletor of the Master of the Universe holding his sword up to Raphael's neck, one of the Ninja Turtles.
I need to see that.
And Raphael's all beat up and he's all bloody and stuff. I had to replace the blood with ooze because it couldn't have blood. You could have a turtle be bloody, but that was two of my main obsessions as a child. So I was like, it doesn't get any better than this. And so yeah, that's Dark Horse put that out, and that's been my favorite so far. So
This question is going to start for Tom, but it's really for all of you. Because Tom, you have 3 kids, and I have 3 kids, and can barely do my makeup in the morning. So how are you putting out comics? Like, how long does it take you to do a page?
Yeah, I mean,
I need to know.
That aspect of it is a nightmare. It really is. It's horrific. It's horrible. And so I sacrificed my sleep, and you might have noticed the accelerated aging that I might have had in the past couple of years. But I would just deprive myself of sleep and work. Although I did reach a point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to deprive myself of sleep. So I just started setting aside certain times every week where it's like, okay, I'm working, and I go to the coffee shop basically and work. So that kind of stuff adds up. That really helps. But now all my kids are in school during the day, so I'm having a renaissance right now.
So how many pages would you say you're putting out a day now? I need to know.
Fortunately, it happened to coincide with a break between projects. I had a little break between, so I was just doing stuff for my own personal well-being, so like riding my bike and all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm going to be getting back to work, so we'll see. But you might see like a renaissance in my work.
Well, I definitely don't have any kids, but I have a very specific schedule, and come from a family like my dad was like an ex-military guy, so he kind of ran our household like the military, where everyone was expected to do chores and work, and there was no laziness allowed in our home. So both of my parents were very loving, but also very proactive people, and it rubbed off on me in a good way of like, I don't care about keeping my room clean or whatever, but I took that discipline and applied it to just drawing and following my craft, and I set up a schedule for myself, and I know how long it takes me to do things, if I get a freelance job or a cover, or if I have to go travel for a weekend for a convention. It just, you do have to like schedule things, and I have a big dry erase board in my studio, and I just keep notes of everything I have that's due. I have lists of everyone who owes me money. Like, as a freelancer, it doesn't matter how successful you are or whatever, like, you never forget who owes you money. That's your lifeblood. So I'm like, these assholes, all these people owe me money. And then you do a day a week where you're like emailing or calling everyone that owes you money. That has never gone away in like 28 years. It's not that people are trying to rip you off. It's just editors are busy, the accounting department, something happened or whatever. So all of that factors into you keeping your own machine running. And each artist has to figure out like how to make your machine go. You know, you can't really teach that. You can just, it's like dive in, hopefully be organized, but physically keeping those lists and charts, that's the most important thing for me.
I also have a list right on my work area, like Jim describes, and I don't have a great schedule. It kind of depends on what I'm working on, what's happening around me, because my wife is a professor, a college professor, so like her schedule's sort of erratic. It's not like a 9-to-5 job, and I like that. I used to joke that I was semi-retired, but really it's having that list, knowing what is due and when, and you know, like people asking artists, how do you know when something is done? And it's like you have a deadline, like it's done, you know, whenever it's due, you know, and then you just fit things in. And it's strange with freelancing because it's like maybe I have 9 things due this week, so you know, you figure out that's 2 a day, or maybe I have 1 thing due this week, and you try that more ambitious idea because you have more time. You know, it's kind of this balloon that's expanding, and you learn how long things take. And I can remember being overscheduled where I would have like an hour and a half to do a cover, and it was like you don't get to redraw it. Like, you know, this is Thursday from 3:30 to 5 is when I have to do this job. It's like soup to nuts or whatever. That's not great. Like I've tried to pare back the schedule, but that's the deal. Like you sort of schedule this stuff, and you know, inevitably the dream job shows up whenever you're the busiest, and you just have to find ways to like, okay, now I have, you know, 10 things due this week, but you figure it out. Like you go a little bit faster. You learn how to modulate the time that you spend on these projects based on the time that you have.
Are we all list makers? Because you said you make lists. I make lists. I'm really big on lists. I love making a list.
List.
Yeah, and so between the list and the schedule, I love making a good schedule. But realizing what I could actually achieve, right? Like, oh, I'm going to do 3 pages a day. That's not achievable. Or I find out
Is
part
it,
of it.
Tom?
It's not
Is it
achievable.
achievable, Tom?
It could be. Yes. Yeah, it is. But over the course of 10 years or 20 years or whatever, you know, it's you got to gauge it. It's all personalized, right? It's all within your own, you know, spectrum, right? But having a kid also, that's like.
You do. I did not know that.
Don't tell these monsters that.
I did not know that.
I'm single. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not single.
True.
I have a kid, and that schedule's intense. Yeah, it could get crazy. Yeah, and chores and pets, and you know, other people have other obligations, and you just do the work when you can. So a schedule comes in handy when, like, all right, I have to. It forces you to prioritize things, like take care of the family, and then you get to ink a page and put the other stuff aside. You know, and that's what I've done. So that helps.
I have one last question. We have a lot of people that this is their first time tabling at a con. So what advice would you give to kind of like the up and coming indie creators? What do you think works best on your table, and what are things that you think they don't really need to worry about bringing?
Oh, I've met a couple of them at the show, yeah, and I'm glad they're here. I'm just glad that they're tabling, because it took me years to even just like have stuff to sell or give away or trade or something. So even just being here is already step one. I don't know, man. It's just I don't know if I have advice to give in terms of tabling specifically. Be aware, be engaging with everyone that walks up to a table. Maybe don't be too aggressive, but don't shy away. Never shy away. You're here for a reason, right? Yeah, I guess that's the fundamental.
Yeah, just be your, you know, most outwardly best self. Like be as positive as you can be, and friendly, even if maybe that stuff doesn't quite come naturally. Just get whatever you have to do to get into that head space. So I mean, imagine yourself as Stan Lee or something, like just get into some kind of character. Keep your display vertical. Make your if there's any way to like elevate whatever it is you're showing off, just to make things more visible, and try to be present, and any kind of like just the general ethos of like improvisational theater or something. Just kind of yes and have that positive energy.
I think that we're all self-conscious about selling our own work, and that's often like a bad term. Somebody's salesman or whatever. But if you can describe your work clearly to people, that's a great tool. That's a service for everybody, because then they know, oh, alien disclosure, I'm interested in UFO disclosure. It's pretty simple. It's very straightforward, and it allows them to make their own decision. And you're not being some like oily salesman who's trying to get over on them if you are clearly describing the book. I've been out with a bunch of cartoonists the last 2 days. And, that means going to comic shops and like holding stuff up and being like, have you read this? What's this about? Have you read this book? And I heard somebody describe this book. They made it sound amazing. And I was like, that's incredible. They have retail experience. I said, do you describe your own work that way? Because they're also a very good cartoonist. And they're like, no. And I've never really thought about it. And it's like, do think about it. How would somebody else, and sometimes get your friend to describe your book, or how they would sell it. Because we always used to joke about, Tom can sell my books better than I can. So do that. Like, any tool is at your disposal. Presumably, if you're tabling here, you're able to talk to other cartoonists, build up that network, but give it some thought. Like, you're going here, it may not be your full-time profession, but like learn to describe what you have made to be able to at least have that conversation with somebody across the table, and be gracious when they compliment you. It can be weird to hear a compliment, but I've seen a lot of cartoonists that put their head down and mumble, and then are quick to point out the mistakes. Why this drawing that this person likes is actually not any good. So now you're insulting the person who has complimented you. So learn to describe your work clearly and informatively, and kind of go from there.
Also, be showered, be clean, be ready. Wear a clean shirt, a new shirt, brush your teeth. But it is like, it's weird because you do have to learn how to become your own like biggest cheerleader without being like a douche about it. You have to, if you're not excited about your own work and presenting it in an appealing way, why is someone else going to pick up on it? So you kind of have to have the confidence to be out there. Even just showing up and tabling is already the first step. Like Michel kind of said, like just showing up and doing that is already like, well, shit, man, that's like half the battle. I mean, you have to come in and who knows what's going to happen or what to expect. So as soon as you have a bunch of that under your belt, it just continues to build, and you get more comfortable. Also for me, whenever I would do a show or still do a show, talking and meeting to real humans in real life and not online, the people that actually like my work or respond to my work or tell me things about it that I wouldn't have thought of, when this is over, that makes me that more inspired to go home and make new work. Because the making of the new work, I'm alone during that process. That's the isolation again, which I don't mind. I like jamming out to music and doing my work. But this is the time where you actually get the world to tell you to your face, which can be great or unnerving or whatever. But it all adds to the complete package of you doing your thing, if that makes sense.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you doing this panel.
Thank you, Justine. You did a great job.
This is my first. Thank you. Guys, enjoy the rest of the con.
Thanks for watching. Before I let you go, I'd ask you kindly hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you're not. hit the bell to be notified when I go live or when I drop a new video. And follow the Ed Piskor Legacy on Instagram. Check out all of these awesome creators that were on the panel if you don't know them. In the coming weeks, you're going to see my video from the con itself, as well as a huge digging video at the mess of stores that I went to with Rugg and Mahfood and Scioli and Fiffe and Brian Moss and all these great people. So a lot of content coming from this weekend along the way. I'm going to stop talking because I'm sick right now, and I'll see you next week on the West Coast Davengers. Peace.